Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mike. Today we have an emergency. That's right, if you saw the thumbnail, and I think you probably did, you can guess what. It is the Seiko Pogue that's been underwater, and I didn't think I'd be doing another video of these. This is very impromptu. It's literally just arrived here in the post today. I haven't opened it up. We're going to find out what's happened. It's been sent to me by a guy called Alan, and I service this for Alan. It's been his lifelong companion, and I serviced this watch back in April of this year. And I did say, as I say with all my vintage watches that I work on or sell, I can't guarantee water resistance on a vintage watch, and you certainly can't on a chronograph because there's two pushes, too many areas for water to get in. Alan went on holiday. You let your guard down on holiday, of course. He jumped into the pool with his granddaughter before realising he still had the watch on. Came up, panicked, saw that there was water inside and messaged me. And I think at the time I was on holiday. I can't remember now. I said try to get the case back off. See if you can get a little rubber ball from somewhere. That's the easiest way to get the grip, get the friction. He managed to get the back off. He's let it dry out. He's come back from his holiday. It's arrived on my bench today. I've not looked inside this yet, so hopefully it's damage limitation. So this video is going to be very impromptu. We're just going to have a look in the movement. Hopefully it's damage limitation. Screws and certain things that I can replace. Hopefully there isn't any rust or a lot of rust. I'm not going to do a full-on service video because we've covered it. Certainly the disassembly, and then how we are going to cope with whatever parts are damaged or are corroded in there. So let's hit the bench, get cracking. It's an emergency. Okay, here's your first close-up glance before we start taking it out of the case and looking at the damage. Pushers. Well, the start-stop button doesn't make it run. I'm not sure if there's any power in it at this stage. The reset button doesn't do anything at all. You just push it, it's fouling. My guess is because it's had the back off, you have the movement ring in there, which is very particular, and if you dislodge that for any reason, that pusher's probably not going to work. So I'm hoping that's all that is. I can also notice that all of the chrome on the indices has gone a little bit off. I can't remember if it was like that to start with. Don't forget this watch, I'm trying to think how old it is, we've not checked that. 1970. Yeah, so it will always have some patina. I just can't remember. I'm trying to think if I lume the hands. I may have loomed the hands, but equally they look like they've got some watermarks on them. I can see some little spotting on the dial as well. That should hopefully come off with a bit of roddy coat. Should be just the salts. So let's get the case back open and have a first peruse inside. So you're seeing it as I'm seeing it. I've just loosened it a little bit. It did come loose. Obviously Alan didn't tighten it up fully. I don't blame him for that. Well, there we are. The watch is running. That is that's blooming good, that is. We have got rust here straight away. The whole rotor here, the bearing race has got, you can see me scraping it off. We've got a good dose of rust on there, but that might just come off. We might be catching this in the nick of time. Big lump here on the screw, on this screw. We're talking about the pushers. The pusher mechanism is here. That's your start-stop. That is definitely jammed in there rather than just the movement ring. So, okay, I need to start stripping down. I also need to get it cameraed better for you for lighting. So let's get the dial off, get it in the movement holder, get close and personal. Okay, all into the movement holder, so let's get into it. It'll be interesting. We're going to start on the calendar work side and see if the water got as far as that. I mean, obviously it was in the crystal, but let's see. With these little C-clips, for those who might be sort of following along or interested, I've found over the years a bit of polythene and a hand lever You can get it off in seconds and it doesn't fly away, which is really important. In actual fact, what I wanted to quickly show you, look, here is the bottom of the rotor, so you can see all the rust there. I think that's really cosmetic and it will come off. Equally, stem and the crown's taken a bit of a hit, and these have got a little spring on them. This part can be really expensive to replace, so I'm hoping that, again, just through the cleaner or the ultrasonic, that we can clean that off and and save it. Now I'm only filming this with the camera pointing down, so for removals of screws and stuff, I'm not cutting anywhere else. I know this movement really well, so as Radio once said, no alarms and no surprises. But so far, good sign. I can't see any corrosion here at all. We just need to deal with some of the basic springs. Get the date wheel off. So I can just see a little bit of tarnishing on the plate here. And again, just out of interest, you can tell this is an early version because you've got a metal wheel. The metal sort of, I forgot what you call this, reduction wheel or whatever. A lot of these are plastic in later models, so it's nice to see the steel one. So far, so good. This is really, really positive. And for those who can't stand plastic, here it is. This is very standard on a 6 series. On this one, it's just this one little part. That's the date finger, or the day finger. Has a little lug on it, if you like, goes around this wheel here, the metal wheel underneath, and it basically just nudges either the teeth, I can't remember which one that one does, so it's either the teeth on that or more likely on the day wheel. You can see the little star gear underneath, might be a bit out of focus, and it sort of just pushes those, and that's for the mechanism at 12. Nothing to do with the quickset. The quickset is completely separate. So if you do have a problem on a watch with a date mechanism that also has quickset, usually the two are not related. So if it will change normally at 12, it's a quickset problem. If it quicksets doesn't change at 12, it's another problem, isn't it? There we go. Right, I'm very optimistic right now. This side looks good. So hopefully we've saved this in the nick of time. And it must be everybody's nightmare. Vintage watch, submerged in water, water ingress, your pride and joy. You know, is it ruined? And the key thing really is to get the back off as soon as possible. People can put it in rice, anything to sort of mop up the water. You know, I don't necessarily recommend a hairdryer, and the only reason I would say that is just because perhaps the heat can get too hot, and with the dial on, I don't know, maybe it could, you know, melt the lacquer or do some damage that way. It's all hypothetical, I've never had to try it. I mean, look at this, you still see, if it's on camera, the blue Mobius grease that I use. Just can't grab that part. So on ingress watches that I've had in the past, usually I don't know it's been in water ingress until I'm working on it, like if it's a restoration or something. It's this, the cannon pinion. It's nice and tight on there. It's on the center wheel, and where the two meet, it's where you put a lot of grease actually, because it's high friction point. They could tend to get seized. On this one, I think we're going to be all right. Yeah, cannon pinion tool tucked that straight off, And I can tell you now, again, no alarms and no surprises. We do have this big spring to take off, which I'll do separately, just because I need my eye over it rather than the camera. Okay, on that, because I'm not prepared for this film, I don't know what's being caught by the camera and not. We do have a little trace of some surface rust just where that part was, and I'm just turning it over. There's a little bit of staining on it as well. I'm confident that will clean up. And again, if this was left for any further length of time, or if it was left still being wet, we'd have a serious problem on our hands. Let's flip it over and get cracking on the main side, the busy side. Okay, as we look at this, you might be looking at the contraption that I'm holding this in. It's a movement holder specifically for 6139 Seikos and 6138s. Designed and made by a friend of mine called Rupert. He's in the Facebook group, and I meet Rupert fairly regularly at the watch fairs and stuff. Quite a little hobbyist engineer as well as a watchmaker, and he's managed to develop this movement holder that I showed in my last Seiko Pogue video, which wasn't all that long ago actually, and I did him a disservice because I said, oh, the movement's not very good, it's not holding the movement very well, and it's because I hadn't used it for a while and I forgot that here is a locking mechanism, and you tighten that and it just pushes here, this little metal lug pushes a ring on the movement just to pinch it. Same on the other side. Really good holder. He puts, well, I don't know how many hours it must have took him to turn that on a lathe and do some milling. I don't think he does them for sale, but he was just kind enough to make me one. Okay, I'm going completely freehand on my mobile phone, in part because I wanted to show you the movement from this sort of angle, and you can kind of see, my lighting's not brilliant, but you can kind of see all of that water staining. If I just come out, it might be a better view in with the angle. So yeah, that's all cosmetic. I don't know if it's going to come out. I mean, obviously we're just running through all the cleaning fluid, I think, first, because that's very good at lifting stains, especially the ammoniated cleaner that I use. But yeah, just wanted to give you some sort of idea of what I'm looking at. When I'm filming, the camera's always in the way, so I'm not looking over a movement like this, as you would be if you're working on a watch. I'm assembling and disassembling at kind of this angle, which makes everything a lot harder than it would be normally. It's always sometimes hard to convey that to people in the comments, who might say some things here and there. And it's just like, well, you know, I do it completely different off camera to when I do it on camera. Anyway, I'm going on. Let's get that stripped. Look, just looking at the balance though, I don't know how much wine there is in this. It's not looking too happy though at the same time. So, right, let's start stripping it down. So I'm going to start straight away, get that balance off. And try to bring that in shot, and yeah, there's a bit of rust underneath. Hairspring looks okay, pivot kind of looks okay. I may need some further inspection on that. Underneath here I can see, I don't know what that is, it's almost like mould. And I showed this at the start, but maybe it's better now we've got a better shot. You can see how that just comes off. So it's kind of cosmetic. I mean, it could be like the salts or the chlorine, I don't know. And all the chemicals are going pools, what that actually does. Ugh. That is really bad. So bad, I'm just going to do a bit more freehand on the old mobile. The old shakeroo. So we might be able to save it. Fortunately, the pull lever here, the magic fingers that I've described in my last video, here they are from a 1970s movement rather than a 2021 movement. These are sort of compatible with 6119s, that sort of era of movement, so I can get spares of those should I need to. This plate, not so, but it's just like a shim. That's going to need a bit of roddy coat. And we'll just see again if that some of that's, it's kind of cosmetic, but it's not. We'll just have to do the best we can with it. All the rust has poured off that onto the jewel. There's a jewel there with the pivot for the chronograph wheel, and the chronograph wheel on this watch, if that's kaput, it's game over, really. They're very hard to find. You can't find them new. You literally have to buy a donor watch to hopefully harvest the one out of it. So we might have to do some pivot cleaning. This wheel really doesn't want to come out. It has finally, and yeah, trying to see if I can bring that in a place I could focus it in or edit it. Plenty of rust on the end of that as well. I guess the good thing with this part is it's kind of critical, but it's going to be a bit more forgiving. So if it has some pitting on it, we can probably get away with that. But screws I've got, I can replace screws, and equally they can be cleaned up. Chronograph bridge reveals, well, one, this wheel here has stayed in the plate, which is not good, and that's the minute recording wheel. As I took it away, it's come out, which is good. And then we have got some deeper rust there, but it doesn't look like it's in any really critical part. Right, have to let down any wind. In actual fact, there is no wind in there, so that's possibly why the balance was moving so badly anyway, which is some respite. Spring has some rust on. That spring looks to be okay. The hammer certainly has taken a bit of a beating. Ugh. From the angle I'm at, I can just see the pivot of the chronograph wheel. It kind of looks okay. Unlike over here, that looks horrendous. That's the coupling levers out the way. So we have, well, of course we've got to get the column wheel out. Excuse the fingers. I wouldn't be surprised if water's got underneath this. It doesn't look too bad. The little bearing it runs on, there's a little like washer. There it is. That's okay. Right, let's get down to the train. Plate seems to be okay. I did forget to take the click spring off. So this is the chronograph wheel. That is the most expensive part in here. And I think we've got off lightly, personally. To be fair, the train, from the angle I'm looking at, looks okay. I will open up the barrel shortly. So there we go, that's the movement taken apart. I think a lot of it's going to be cosmetic. I'm sure the watch can run again. Nothing looks like it's completely buggered. However, time will tell, won't it? So let's just quickly open the barrel up, and then I think we'll just have a look at a few of them on the microscope. This is kind of uncharted territory for me, to be fair. I've never had something as bad as this. My philosophy, certainly in watch repair, certainly if it's for somebody else rather than my own, is always the path of least resistance. The least work possible, so replace rather than repair in certain areas. You know, I've got too much rust in one place, well, let's just buy another part. It saves a lot of time. My time is valuable. I don't do that many people's watches because I don't have the time. So yeah, you know, if I can replace rather than spend ages trying to do something, I will. I don't learn so much that way, but it's spend my time on my watches. So yeah, I think at the moment we'll try and scrape some of this off and check the parts, just put them through maybe a pre-wash in the ultrasonic and then a main wash, and then come back and have a better look. And just to finish off this segment, there is the barrel. It doesn't appear that the water's got in there, but it doesn't look clean either, irrespective of me doing it back in April. So that mainspring will be removed, cleaned and put back in. Okay, I've picked out some of the particularly rusty parts along with the wheels to inspect on the microscope, and this certainly looks bad. This is the ball race, if you like, for the bearing on the rotor. The rotor sits on the other side, basically drives this, and this does the magic fingers thing to wind the mainspring. And you can see, look, I'm just using a bit of peg wood, and a lot of this, it looks bad, doesn't it? But it ain't. It's purely cosmetic. But again, leave this for any length of time, it's going to be anything but cosmetic. It'll just get worse. So this part, which looked horrendous, might well be alright after a couple of good cleans. I do worry slightly in there because I can't clean in there, and whether it will come off in the fluids. This little bridge plate here obviously denotes the movement, 6139A. And I don't have a spare of this. I think I've got a 6139B, but not the A. So I'm hoping to salvage it as best I can, and cleaning is all you can do. I think the ultrasonic actually might help. My pre-clean is basically just old watch cleaning fluid in a little jar. I chuck all these parts in and put them in the ultrasonic, and that way it should buzz out some of the crap. So here we go, here's the balance. This is the one part you don't want to break, but again, are you working on 6139s, you can get a balance from a 6119 movement, and you turn the collet, I think it's 90 degrees or something, and it'll work in one of these fine. So you can see here again, this is salts or something, isn't it, just solidifying on the wheel. Can't really see the pivot on this microscope. I would assume it's going to be okay. It's going to be a lot of inspection for me personally before I come to rebuild this watch. That's why I'm going to just keep the video down to showing all the damage and then hopefully parts afterwards and then the watch running. This is the chronograph wheel. Let's get it into focus for you. Get my horrible fingers out of the way. And I should be able to crop this image from what I'm seeing, but essentially that pivot looks completely fine. No corrosion there at all. There is some sort of corrosion or something there. So yeah, I'm not worried about the chronograph wheel, which is good. This one was the minute recording wheel. Kinda looks okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get it in focus for you. That was stuck in the jewel, so my assumption was it was rusted, but it doesn't look, well, it looks okay. The skate wheel, pretty much unharmed, but then the train did look good, didn't it, when we took it apart. Third wheel, losing focus. Little black dots, must be sort of just a bit of dirt, I would assume. I'm just looking for the steel part of it. Kind of okay. In fairness, I will have these on my stereo scope where I can look at them a lot better, to be sure. So the centre wheel, this is where I would have dreaded, certainly on that protruding part there, the tube. Very susceptible, but we got away with it here. So the magic fingers, hopefully that is cosmetics, and be hard for me to hold that because it's quite delicate and small part, but yes, it looks like it. The concern, of course, is the tips, because the tips hook on a ratchet wheel sort of thing, and if they rust and you lose the tip, it won't wind the spring efficiently, and that rust does feel a lot more coarse. Looks like it may have pitted, and I think again we can still take these out of another 6 movement, which is probably what I'll do if I feel they're not good enough. Pilot fork, apart from the dirt, let's just see if we can get a bit closer. Yeah, sorry for the crudeness of the way I'm doing this, but I thought I'd bring you along for the journey. Why not? And at this point, if you're along, you're along for the journey and you're enjoying what I'm doing here, please hit that like button. Only about 10% of the watchers actually hit the like button, and I'd really like to get that stat up because it helps immeasurably. So if you're enjoying it and you want to help me, then please do that. And while you're there, if you're new, hit subscribe. I'm possibly the oldest watch repair channel on YouTube, and yeah, got a lot of back videos all the way to 2019. So this is the wheel I was a bit concerned about, and you can see it there. That's pretty crusty, isn't it? And I think replacements can be found for these, but again, I will just chance my arm. That sits in a jewel, and as long as I can clean that up with a pivot polisher or something, I'll take a chance. So that's kind of it. I wanted to have a quick look at the hammer. Yeah, the hammer's taken a bit of a hammering, but it'll be alright, I think. To finish off with that really bad part of the plate there, it's taken the brunt. But again, look, I think Alan did the best thing he could. He got it dry as fast as possible, because water in these places, actually this, see this jewel here, this is the jewel that had that other part in it. By that part I mean this one. yeah, I've got a bit of a workload on here to try and get these a little bit better. I'll chance it through the ultrasonic first just to see if it helps me before I have to step in. But yeah, I can just imagine my own panic if this has happened to me on holiday. Imagine it happened on the first day or something, you're away for 2 weeks. A little bit of me would die every single day. I'd almost be tempted to post it back to England to some of my friends. Hopefully they could start it before I got back. Main plate. Ironically, we can see actually the severity of the ovaling. Now, I didn't jewel this movement in part because I didn't have the tools to do it. I do now, so I may well have to sink a jewel into the barrel arbor, because these are notorious for ovaling. I mentioned it in my last video on the Seiko NH movements, but this is what old Seikos do. So I just need to practice on a few movements before I try and take on the clients. But yeah, it certainly is worse than it was when I sent it back to him. Anyway, okay, there we are. That's inspection done. I'm not going to show you all of the ultrasonic and cleaning through the machine to save a bit of time. So I will cut back to you when I feel it's correct or that the parts are clean. Okay, here we are a few days later, and I've been ultrasonically cleaning with pegwood, cleaning with some rust, removing product, a couple of cycles with the cleaning machine and everything, and this is what we're going to end up with. So just looking at the mainspring here, it doesn't look all that attractive, but it's a lot cleaner than it certainly was. That is just the sort of brass coming through through years and years of use. You really do have pot luck with these sort of movements. These old Seikos, you can see the lid here has also seen better days. I'll always put a little bit of grease on the lid here for once I obviously put the lid on. So it's not attractive, but it should work. I've seen worse. Of course, I've also seen a lot better. And here is a part that has not survived. It didn't even make the cleaning, to be honest with you. I soon noticed that the corrosion in just this matter of a few weeks was enough to take at least one tooth off the ratchet wheel here. I assumed I would have spares of these because I naively thought that the Seiko 6119s would be the same, but they're not. They're slightly different. I have got one out of one of my own watches to show you, albeit this needs to go through the cleaner. I will use this, so at least I can get this watch back to Alan, and I'll have to source one myself. There are some on the internet, but I'll ask some of my contacts because you never know. People in my face group can be quite helpful at times, and if I can find one locally, that will be brilliant. So moving on to some of the bridge plates. So here you can see that, well, I don't know what to suggest really. I'm reluctant to put everything in rust removing fluids, because the stuff I've got, if it's steel and it goes in there for long enough, it turns it black and goes pretty unsightly. But you know, that said, we can still see there's a bit of corrosion there. That is corroded completely. I might have one of these in some spare somewhere. I'll have to have a look. They're sort of riveted on, but we'll have to see. I think on rebuild we'll see how it works. I'll try and scratch a bit more of this off. This brass is wear because of the bushings on the barrel, which I said in the first part were ovaled. This is the top bushing, and I intend to jewel these. I just need to speak to Alan about that because there's a cost involved in order for me to do that. But I don't know, it's quite shiny. It's come up a lot better because there's a lot of sort of funny marks, which I think were just the salts. So this I think will work again. Over here it's just not desirable, but it's not going to interfere particularly with the running. This is a spring that operates the the column wheel, and I think these will be a bit more forgiving in the long term if I can't sort them better. This part's given me a lot of trouble because I know I haven't got one of these. This has been in the rust removing liquid, and it still doesn't seem to want to get in there and get that off. A bit of a fluff, yeah. It's certainly looking better than it was, but I'm not entirely happy. It might be just that I put some oil in there and see what gives. This is a little bushing here. Excuse my hair on the tweezers there. So this here is what the magic fingers go on, and there's another little bushing here for, it's not a jewel, but this is what happens. It's turned black in my treatment. I need to probably find some different sort of rust proofing or rust removing treatment because it's not desirable. I know from experience from talking to I can't even say his name, Adam Ham, is that right? Weekend Watch Repair, and he can re-jewel these using a jewel out of the Seiko 6119, so I might do that because it's just got a bit unsightly. We can have a good look around the main plate. Main plate, to be honest, is fine. This what I thought was rust at first is just pitting through the plating again onto the brass. The balance is acceptable. You can see the screw has not survived. Fortunately, there's one thing I have got plenty of is spares of Seiko screws, so any that are corroded will be replaced. Purely just from a cosmetic point of view, if the corrosion fell off, it would find its way into the movement. Again, here we are. This was some rusting we could see before. It hasn't come out, and my reluctance again is to treat it. Again, it's not in an essential place for to disturb the train. Again, another sacrifice is that dial screw there. The last of the plates that I wanted to show you was the top plate, and this has fared a bit better. If you remember, it had all the gunk here, all the rust, which had just fell off really into the jewel for the centre chronograph wheel. That's cleaned up all right. Maybe a few traces over here still. And under this microscope, it holds no prisoners, does it? There's loads of fibres everywhere, which is a bit embarrassing. So, onto the parts that were concerning me the most. The pull lever or the magic fingers. Fortunately, look, the hooks have survived. They're very good, but all that is completely perished, and it's crept onto the really narrow parts of the arms. And my fear with that is that that's just going to fail. Here's another one I've dug out, and equally it's not looking as good, but I'll put that through the cleaner and I'm hoping it'll be okay. The point doesn't look as good, does it, under hindsight, under the microscope, so maybe I've got to find another one of those as well. It's a bit of a shopping list, isn't there? This plate, it's non-essential, it's just a shim plate really, just to pack it, and the rust has come off, as most doesn't look it, and a lot of that is actually staining. So yeah, not pretty at all. Equally with this wheel. So if I can focus on that, I suppose it's coming through, isn't it? You can just see there that the leaves have gone rusty right at the top. I've put a pivot polisher on the very end, clean that up, and that was okay. Now this goes from the top of the movement, so the actual magic fingers which are next to it here hook onto this and they ratchet it, and this then ratchets the ratchet wheel, too many words there, to wind the mainspring. And I'm going to chance it because this part is very specific to this movement. I think the 6139A and B ones are different. So I'm just going to put it in because I don't know whether the ratchet actually touches right where the rust is or whether it's in the clean part. I guess the worry is if it's in the rusty part, it might chip some off and it might get into the movement, but I'll just have to sort of see how I get on there. Otherwise it starts getting very expensive to find all these parts and replace them. This is the column wheel, and I'm not worried about this particularly. That black is because originally on some of the early movements they were all black. They were coated, I think. So this gives you the appearance that it's really bad, but it's not. You know, there is a little trace of it on the teeth here, which again I'm going to have to try and knock off. But as far as I'm concerned, I can reuse that. Perhaps the last thing to show here is the hammer, and the hammer's cleaned up. But being the metal it is, it's just stained and doesn't look very pretty at all. But as far as I'm concerned, fully functional. I think we are just really on kind of damage limitation. There are a few screws that just didn't make the cut. Didn't even bother putting them in the cleaner. I'll replace all of these straight away. There's no bother with them. What else have we got? I suppose lastly it's just the wheels, but the wheels were fine when we looked at them to start. So we'll just try and bring those into shot. They're all nice and shiny and clean. I think they were pretty unaffected, to be honest with you, other than maybe some staining on the wheel itself, and the cleaning's got rid of all of that. And the chronograph wheel, which is the biggest worry, I think it's going to be okay. Okay, the proof of course is in the pudding, and that means I've got to rebuild it, and I've also got to do a rejewel as well. I'm not going to film the rejeweling purely because I want to do a separate video on that, which will be a very short video because it's not particularly a challenging thing to do. So I'll just do a little fast thing now of showing the rebuild and for your enjoyment, and then we'll test it on the Timegrapher at the end and see how good it is. What I will say before I assemble the watch is that you know, this is my method. It's not proven, as you can see. It doesn't completely clear it off. I'm interested to hear from you. Have you got solutions to these sort of problems that work? Can you advise me and the community in general, products that you use, or any tips, anything you think I've done right or wrong? We're all here to help each other, and it'd be very useful at this stage. We're all trying to learn, and I want to share as much of my knowledge as I possibly can. So yeah, leave your comments down below, and I will try and read through those and hopefully pick up some tips from my viewers. Here I'm pressing in the jewel on the main plate. There you go, nice and straightforward. And doing the same here on the bridge plate too. You just push it in until it's flush, until the pusher can't go any further, and then you know it should be seated correctly, as it is there. And here I'm going to do a fast forward of the rebuild of the movement, so it's only going to be a few minutes long, but it's enough time to thank all my patrons for their support publicly. Their names will be scrolling across the screen now, so thank you very much for that. If you want to be a patron, there is a link down below, and there's some fringe benefits as a result. And while I'm talking about things like that, if you'd like to buy a vintage watch from me or some merch, then head over to time-tees.com, link down below. Enjoy the rebuild. Okay, you join me now with the movement built, and it's been running okay, but there is a problem, and it's a problem that I've been trying to remedy, or at least diagnose, for the last 2 days off camera. I now think I know pretty much what it is, and I'm going to demonstrate it to you now. So essentially this the chronograph should be running, this wheel should be turning right now, and it's not. It has a little notch on it just there which hits this wheel here, intermediate wheel, which moves this wheel here is the minute recording wheel for the chronograph, and it's fouling basically. It hasn't got enough poke to push this over. It does it only every now and again, so it's a bit inconsistent, and if I just try and touch one of these, we should see it hopefully kick back into action. There we go. So that will all go all the way round. It's a bit out of focus just down there, but you can see that notch there. So that's all it does, it just touches that. So the main thought is there is possibly rust under this wheel, because this wheel is just friction fit here. Got to push that out. But I did a lot of concentration on the minute recording wheel. Essentially, I found the top pivot here to be quite tarnished, so I've been doing a lot of polishing, thinking that would just remedy it. But it's also the bushing, I feel. You can just about see it. The bushing, to me, it looks too free in there. It's common apparently that these will fail. Just intrigued, as it's coming back round now, we can just quickly watch and see if it does it, see if it stops or it doesn't. There you go. So no, it's fine on that one. So it's only marginal, but I do wonder whether this bushing is just too loose and somehow at some point it binds. I'm just going to bring you a little bit closer and we can have a better look. Okay, so there is the bushing. Let's get it better in focus. So there is the bushing. There is a little slight burr I can see. But that is not interfering. I've actually been in here with a little tool, a smoothing broach as well, but I think there's just too much slop here, and this bush will have to be replaced. That's my inkling. Never done this before, but I think it can be done. Look, the wheel's just gone around another minute, so it's kind of working at the moment. So I'm going to take it apart, show the rust on the wheel if there's any left, and we're going to push this out and potentially push out this bushing as well. So here, looking at the wheel as close as we can get, the little sort of circular marks are caused by the pin polish thing that I was using to polish the pivots, and I'm just going to try and get the oiler in. It's tiny, this thing. You can just see that little sort of divot, for want of a better word, there. Well, that was tarnish, and all of this was black actually, so I've polished it all off. I think it's kind of still round and probably alright, but I just don't know. Obviously this fault is minute in its resistance, and that could be just enough. Again, I still think it's the bush, but it's certainly worth showing you. It's the minute detail sometimes with these things, if it's not small enough already. Here's the little wheel and the little thing it sits on, and you can see there's a little bit of tarnish. My tweezers are slightly magnetised. There's a little bit of tarnish on there, and equally a little bit on the wheel as well. And it doesn't look a lot, and I couldn't even see it until I put it on the microscope, to be honest with you. But that could be all it is. That said, I've pushed the bushing out, which you'll have just seen as well. I'm going to put some pictures up now in preparation. I feel that I'm going to try and see if I can get a bush. So I'm measuring it. It's 1.4 in its diameter. The pivot itself is 0.35, and the thickness is, I can't remember, is it 0.9? I'll put it on the screen anyway. So with those 3 dimensions, we need to go hunting, see if we can get a bush. In the meantime, I've got to try and clean this off as well, which should be fun. It's interesting that there's just like, every time I push this, it's pushing it down ever so slightly. That's how close we are on the microscope. There's a little bit there, that could be all it is, you know. So yes, I think while I clean this, find a bush, I'll show you on Cousins now, see if we can find the bush. Then, in the meantime, I need to try and just improve that dial. Here we are looking at the dial, and you can quite clearly see the indices. The chrome bit has got, I don't know, like dried salts almost on it. There is also some sort of, well, dried watermarks. Not easy to see on the microscope. One just there, look. But I can see them quite easily with my eyes. So I'm just going to try and see if a bit of Rodico might do its thing. It's certainly looking marginally better there already. I'm a bit hampered by the microscope, if the truth be told. So some of that might have come through the lacquer. Bits like that clearly have not. But what we're going to do about the indices, well, I have 2 tools. One is just a bit of pegwood, sharp piece of pegwood, and the other thing, I can't really show it. I'll try and put a picture of it up separately. It's a Bergen tool that you can buy at Cleans. Dials and basic stuff like that. It's got a little bit of suede leather on the end. Shown it many times before, but if you're new to the channel, of course you won't have seen that. So we'll try that first and just see what improvements can or can't be made with this. Not too worried about the loom, that should stay okay. Right, it's buffed it, but that's about all. But you can see a bit of pegwood. Is a lot better. I saw someone years ago as well use a little bit of oil on the end of their pegwoods to do this sort of job. So looking at it, it looks like pegwood first and then perhaps polish it a little bit afterwards. Yeah, that's looking a lot better, isn't it? I mean, we are close magnification and they have aged, but there's night and day difference between the two there, isn't there? So I've literally got to work all my way around here and try to make them all look a bit better. Wish me luck. There's the dial, as good as I can get it. They're quite shiny, to be honest. That one is the worst. I've also Rodicoed the dial, polished the dial a little bit as well with the same tool, and there's just really sort of this one black spot there and one there that I can't do anything about. So pretty good save. Also had to do the hands as well. So we are now ready for the bushes. Here we are on Cousins' website. I don't think you can see my mouse on the screen capture, but this is the path, watch parts and glasses, watch parts and unbranded, and then you get the bushes in watches. And scroll down and we are looking for somewhere around here. Right, okay, so the first one, 1.4mm by 0.35 by 0.55, so that one is too tall. The 0.55 is too tall. 0.35 is arguably the size of the pivot. So I'm going to go down a little bit further, and we have really only this choice. 1.4 by 0.4, which is the hole, by 0.35, so it's 0.02 of an inch, or 0.05, 50 microns undersize on the actual bush thickness. Don't know how much that's going to play a part, but the next size up is essentially 0.7, which is too big. So I'm going to chance it. I'm going to buy this. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. It's cost £4.95 plus VAT plus post. So I may get a 0.35 one just in case, but I'll do some more research. I'm pretty sure the bush diameter has to be bigger, and that diameter is 0.35 for instance, and not 0.4, but for a 0.35 pivot. Anyway, I'm sort of talking out loud rather than anything else here. Let's get it on order, and you'll see me in a few days, hopefully trying to fit it. So here we are, a few days on for me, and yes, this wheel, I've rubbed the back here on some 7000 grit. It was the finest I've got, and it smoothed it out. We have still got some pitting, but nothing is raised, and that's the main thing. And then I've had this in a pin vise and used the pin polisher as well to try and remove the rust from that as well. So I'm fairly happy with that. You can almost see a slight golden tinge, and I do wonder whether this is brass, which is zinc plated for this wheel. I'm not sure. It could be just the camera. So that's the good news. The other thing is the bush arrived. So I've been eagerly anticipating this bush. However, there's a big, huge problem with this bush, and I'll show you now. Here's the bush on top of the pivot. It kind of looks okay from this angle, but believe you me, look at the slop in that. It's even worse than the original. So clearly the the 0.4 theory on the hole size is completely wrong, and I can further now prove that. So let me just cut to a different camera. And here's a tool of mine that I wish I remembered I had 3 days ago. It would have saved me a lot of pain. This was actually given to me by a guy called Walt, one of my friends and fans of the channel. He actually used this for sizing the holes in watch hands, but it's got another usage as well. And here we are. So this is 0.4 of a millimetre, and this is our new brass bush. You can see it sitting there proud at 0.4, and this is our original bush, which you can see is just at the bottom end of the 0.35. So yeah, it's a shame because it's cost me what, £6-7 to get that bush, and it'll now never be used. You can't send anything back to cousins. So I've also removed one from a donor plate that I've got, which I think is better and is one I'm going to use anyways, and I'll just put that on there now to show you where that lines up. Okay, so there we go. The one I've taken out the donor is on the top, and there isn't really a gap. You can see they pretty much match up. So does that mean that this bush issue was a complete red herring? Quite possibly. The fact that I ran the watch without the minute wheel in it and it never stopped pointed towards this the whole time, but maybe it's the rust on that that little intermediate wheel. Who knows? I'm going to put the new bush in, well, not the new bush, but the one from the donor, and I'll repin the wheel onto the plate and assemble it and see what's what. You live and learn in this hobby, and I'm just showing you, really, this is the real-time me. This is, you know, don't try and profess to be professional in any way. And these are just the things and the pitfalls that you come across and sometimes they're a little more costly than £7. Fortunately for me this time. And just so you know what's going on here, I'm pushing it in from the back because I need it flat to the reverse, and there's a little recess there, and you use a pusher, if you like, that's bigger than the hole, so it will then go in nice and flat. I'll need to check that to be sure. And here we are back on the microscope with the plate on. We're just going to be waiting for that to just turn all the way around and give it a nudge. It's done it quite a few times off camera so far, and it is moving all nice and freely. So I think we've cracked it. Here we go. You'll just see it now come in here to nudge it. It'll be famous last words if it stops now, won't it? There we go. Bosh. Done. So I'm very happy with that. You can see that the bush here is a little tighter fitting, marginally, and it might not have been that it was at fault. Perhaps it was the rust in here. I've actually had to adjust the end shake on this. I had it flat to the back of the plate before, and it was binding when I put it on. So I've had to push this through. It's raised up on this side a lot more in order for it to do this. So overall, I'm pretty happy, and yeah, you know, so far what a repair. This is why this hobby is fascinating for hobbyists. But if you're doing this professionally, would you take this job on? Or if you were the customer, would you want to pay the bill? I have put in a serious amount of hours to get to this point. So it does beg the question, doesn't it, sometimes, what is actually viable? And, you know, for a trained watchmaker, would he want to put all of his efforts into this, potentially not to fix the watch, and then try and get some money out of somebody for having a broken watch still? That's an argument for the comments. Certainly be interested to hear what you're going to say. If you're going down to the comments, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you're new, because these videos take a lot of effort, and I do it for my enjoyment but also for your benefit. Right, I'm going to leave this to run now for well, it's already 11 o'clock at night here, so I'm going to go to bed, go to work, come back tomorrow. If it's still running in the chronograph mode, then we know 100% we've cracked it, and I'll be able to put the dial on and conclude this video. Right, okay, I will see you in a second, but for me it'll be nearly 24 hours. And here we are the next day. It's on the Timegrapher, so clearly I fixed that problem with the minute wheel, and I'm really pleased about that. Its performance here is fairly decent. I'm still a little bit skeptical. As you can see, the amplitude has just dropped, and it drops down to about 225, something like that, and then sometimes comes back up. But the trace is okay. It's a little bit wavy. This watch has been through a lot, especially with the tarnish as well, so perhaps this is the best I can get. Now, with these type of Seikos, the 6 series movement, 6-1 series movement anyway, the amplitude is typically low. You don't expect to see much more than 240, 250 maybe. So at the moment I'm calling this a win, especially seeing as the trauma it's had, and the fact that I've managed to save it. It'll now be under scrutiny for quite a while. I'll have it a week or so on the winder just to make sure everything's okay, but I'm really pleased. Positionally it seems to be fair. You can kind of see here it just goes off a little bit. We're just rushing it through here though. This is crown up, but we're not seeing any dramatic differences. It's getting a bit noisy now because I'm moving it around and not letting it settle. So yes, it's dropping there as it did a little bit, but I've already been looking at it, and it seems to be all right in the main. Here we are, dial down nice and straight, as you can just see it forming there. So yes, Alan will get his watch back, hopefully running as good as it was before it went in the swimming pool. And then here it is in hand. You can see that the chronograph is stopped currently, but obviously the watch is running, and we can start it off no problem at all, and in theory should reset. The reset's a little bit stiff. It looks like I've got to do a little bit modifying on that one. The flyback's a bit too slow, so there's not really enough tension in the spring, I think. I didn't notice that until now. There you go, it's always the honesty box with me. So there's still one last thing that this watch has to have done to it, but I'm not going to be too worried about that. Let's just try it again. Yeah, look, it's really struggling with its reset. Okay, not to worry. Okay, that's the end of the video, and what's the moral of the story? Don't swim with your vintage watches, because you might not find someone like me who's prepared to try and even repair it. This has been quite an ordeal, really. It's taken at least 7 days, and for me turning around watches like that would only be a day or two. So it's just gone on, and that's just from cleaning the rust, obviously setting up the camera to film as well, and various bits and pieces just to take all that time away. But Alan gets his treasured watch back, and hopefully it'll run well into the future. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Certainly if you got this far, leave a comment below. I read them all, try to reply to as many as I can. Subscribe and check out all my socials. Instagram, post on there regular. The Retro and Vintage Watches and Restorations Facebook group, get joining in there. If you want to support me, join Patreon. If you want to buy a watch from me, then head over to Time-Tees. There is a link below. I sell vintage watches there, and again they turn around as people buy them and as I get more in to restore, and as I've got more time when I'm not doing watches that take this amount of time. Right, thanks very much. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.